excuse the cool dude surfing mug, but it has to happen. So I thought I'd make a little series, kind of, as I want to call it, behind the frame, where I tell you some stories about like what went into a shot or what made a shot special, or whether it's video or stills. It doesn't really matter, but sometimes there's things that go into making a shot, or a feeling that went into a shot that the viewer like yourself doesn't see. And I thought that would be kind of a cool thing to take you on a little bit of a journey behind the scenes or behind the frame. So I'm just going to start out with some of my gear. Some people, well, quite a few people ask me what I shoot with, and so I just thought I'd take a little rundown. There's a kind of a cool story with my housing, so I'll go into that. So just basically, I'm shooting right now on the Nikon ZR. Great camera. I actually went from Canon to this setup just because of form factor and size. I have shot on reds and stuff like that, and using this red codec along with other reds that I shoot with, that's so seamless to color grade, and it's really, really nice. So I kind of wanted to keep that, you know, as a small body, and then shooting on the bigger bodies, and then in post kind of joining up. It's obviously not exact, but it's very nice workflow to work with. And as I swim a lot, I wanted the smallest, most capable body that I could find, which was this one at the time. So I'm shooting with the 24-70 f4 lens now with the body of the ZR. And then I've got a very small 40mm f2. That's again super light, not the heaviest lens, but super light and very easy to travel with, and great sharpness, and for housing work, amazing. Then I went with a TT Artisan 14mm f2.8, also very nice, very well priced for it, and yeah, just great little lens. Pretty heavy for what it is, but very good little lens. Yeah, I'm not the biggest gear guy. There's guys out there with like bags and bags and bags of gear, and I kind of just want to have 2 or 3 lenses that can do pretty much everything, and easy to pack, very light, easy to travel with, and just compact. And that's kind of what I've done my whole life. I can have 500 lenses, but you can only shoot with one at one time. So kind of that's how I feel. So that's one thing I've done. And then I've got a pretty universal Nikon 28-400. This lens is pretty crazy. It's got a function ring, or a manual focusing ring, and it extends out. So this one I actually shoot in my housing. It's small. It does extend, obviously, but it's great. You got the reach of 28mm to 400, so it's an amazing lens and incredibly sharp for what you get. So yeah, that's just, again, mostly for travel and housing work. Between the 24-70 that I'm shooting with now, this one, and then the standard 40mm, I've got everything covered. And then, no way, it's raining outside, but it's sunny. Then I want to come across to my housings. Oh, I forgot one lens. I've got a medium format Voigtlander fold-out camera. Really sick. I found this Kodak focusing little thing, I don't know what you call it, where you line the 2 images up, rangefinder. And then that's on that, and then this folds out, and it's a pretty crazy little camera from, I think, 1944. And then it comes to my housings. Now this is pretty, I'm pretty proud of this and pretty stoked of how it's happened. So a little backstory is I finished high school and my dad surfed, and I wanted to. I grew up bodyboarding and things like that, and then I wanted to get into photography, but I really wanted to shoot water. And coming from South Africa, it's incredibly expensive to try dabble in the world of water photography and get a housing. No one brings them in. They're pretty impossible to bring in via shipment. No one ships back then to Cape Town or South Africa. So it was really hard. You had to find an old secondhand one or someone making one or some crazy system. But so my dad and I made a housing out of fiberglass, but it was this first I had made it for a literal tiniest point and shoot 35mm camera, like the cheapest camera you can find. It was probably, I'm not even joking, $10 camera or 200 Rand. It was the cheapest thing ever. And we wanted to, so you want to make it fit, but so we had to do this reverse clay mold into a positive mold, then a fiberglass mold. So it was like a negative, a positive, a negative of a camera. It was a very long process. So we're using plastic, using clay, using all this stuff to try manipulate this thing into a shape. But then when we cast the original, the final shape, you put the camera in, and it was such a tight fit that it was so perfectly fitting, obviously because it is the exact shape of a camera, that you had to grind away to make little spaces fit so that you could actually like wiggle it inside just a bit. Anyway, I eventually made one for a Pentax MZ50 SLR. And this thing was probably like a centimeter or 2 centimeters thick. This thing was bulletproof, had like 15 nuts and bolts around it. Anyway, it didn't leak. And ever since then, I have never bought housing. I still make my own housings. Something I just have done and will continue to do with the prices of housings and how expensive they are. So here are my two at the moment. So I make a housing and then I basically manipulate it for any camera that I get. So this one I built quite a while ago. It's very square. That's the back of it. It's very square. Front, side button. So this was originally for my Canon R5 to fit with a 50mm lens and an Atomos screen with a battery. So it would be like screen, battery, camera, lens, all in a row. Then I have kept it, not doing anything with it, and I decided to make it for the ZR. So obviously it's wider. A lot of cameras can fit in here. It's kind of a block. But I decided to try make a gear mechanism, which was really difficult. So I had to work out how to make a gear fit on a side like that with corresponding teeth that turned it without twisting it. So you think something turns easily, but it actually is very hard. Whereas if something, because when something reaches the end of its life on a turn, it wants to twist that object. So to make it, the teeth work enough that it turned it but didn't twist it. Anyway, so I did manage it. I cut it by hand without a perspex, so it's in there. And then there's a ring that goes around this lens with teeth, little cog teeth that correspond to that teeth that correspond to this here. And that is my dial inside that twists. And then I've got a button that pushes on and off and another one for functions. So that's my very basic one. I use this with the 28-400 as well. It floats a lot, so it's nice and bigger surf. It actually is pretty buoyant. And then I've got my other one. I've got this one, which is my normal go-to. It's a lot smaller, as you can see. So this one has been around through, I think, 3 or 4 cameras. And I made it, kind of just bigger than the biggest camera that I had at the time, so that every other camera would fit inside it. And then only what would happen is the length would change. So I normally shoot primes, a 50 mil, a 28, or 40 mil, or whatever like that, like I have here. So a lot of people like zooming in the water. I prefer actually almost shooting a prime lens and then swimming into position, so that you kind of know your distance at all times, what you should be shooting, and it's up to you to swim into position. There's some waves such as J-Bay, Cloudbreak. There's certain waves that are very hard to swim into position for, either a current, like Namibia, another one, that shooting a prime is great, but there's certain parts of the wave you can never get to if you're just swimming, where that's why I decided to build the gear mechanism, which I have here as well on this housing. And I built a port. I couldn't buy a port because obviously my housings are custom for, so I had to build my own port. So I got all the tubing and everything and I made the port. So I can actually take this port off and put on my flat port so that the housing goes, it's just the red part and it's flat on the front. So that means I can shoot a much smaller compact housing with my 40 mil or my 14 mil. Again, I have all the buttons to turn on, off, change between photo and video, change between 6K, 4K, on, turn the camera on and off, and then obviously a handle that screws on. I'll show you how it comes off. You just screw it off at the bottom. You screw it off the bottom, it comes off. So there's the housing, just the block. And then that housing, that goes on to the other housing. So I just switch the handles. I've got a shorter handle just so that it's easier for my thumb to engage the gear mechanism, or my other fingers are loose, and this one's bigger. So you can see the difference there. And that's about it. If you guys have seen any photos or videos that I post on stories or my feed and you would like to know what went into that shot, or maybe the settings or something crazy that I did differently that you might not know, yeah, drop me a comment, hit me up. I'm going to do a few more of the kind of special photos or special videos that I have in mind that maybe have a pretty good story that you might not know about or have been wondering about. But if you do see anything, let me know. And yeah, thanks for watching.